Welcome to Promptly Speaking. We're jumping into something today that's probably top of mind if you're building anything with AI or, frankly, just using products with new AI features.
Yeah.
It feels like after all the massive leaps in AI capabilities over the last couple of years, the actual features showing up in our software often feel, well, maybe a little underwhelming.
That's definitely a feeling going around. It's this sense that you have this incredible potential,
Right.
right? But the way it actually shows up in products, it often feels less like a revolution and more like, well, like an add-on.
Right, like you took this amazing new engine and just kind of bolted it onto something old.
Hmm.
And that's exactly the idea Pete Kumman explores in his really insightful recent article, AI Horseless Carriages.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, and we've also been digging into the really lively discussion it kicked off on Hacker News and looking at some other related perspectives on where AI product integration is, today.
So our goal here is to really dig into why this horseless carriage feeling is so common right now. Let's unpack some specific examples we found in the sources.
And crucially for you listening, if you're building, founding, innovating, figure out what the sources suggest about moving past this stage.
Yeah, how do we build AI features that aren't just, bolted on? How do we actually rethink workflows and maybe create totally new possibilities?
Okay, let's get into it. So that core analogy from Kuman's article, The Horseless Carriage, it really resonates, and you see it echoed all over those Hacker News comments.
It's easy to picture, right? Think about the very first cars. They didn't look like the cars we have now.
Not at all.
A lot of them were literally horse-drawn carriages, just with an engine sort of crammed onto the front where the horse used to be.
Exactly. An engine bolted onto an existing design. You got rid of the horse, big change, sure, but you didn't fundamentally rethink how the vehicle itself should be shaped or, how it interacts with roads or the whole system of
It
transport.
was just an incremental step, still stuck in that old way of thinking.
And the sources are arguing that's kind of where a lot of AI product features are right now. They feel tacked on. People in the discussions describe them as like useless, expensive, sometimes even actively annoying.
Yeah, annoying's a big one.
Yeah.
You see examples like autocomplete in Gmail or iMessage.
Right.
As some commenters pointed out, the basic idea of suggesting the next word, that's not new,
Yeah.
right? That existed before LLMs.
We've had that for ages.
Exactly. Now, maybe large language models make it slightly better, maybe more context aware, but does it feel like a fundamental shift in how you write an email or a text?
For a lot of people, no. It's still just typing, but now you've got these mildly distracting suggestions popping up all the time.
And then you've got the fitness app examples. Oh, man.
Yeah.
One Hacker News user just nailed it, calling the AI workout summaries in Strava or Garmin absurd AI slop.
Absurd AI slop. I love that.
They just wish they could turn it off because
Yeah.
it didn't give them any real insight or value beyond what the raw data already showed them.
It perfectly captures that feeling, doesn't it? Getting this generic, low-value output that you didn't really need or ask for. Another big one that came up a lot was AI meeting note takers.
Oh, yeah. The discussion highlighted how these often produce uh, hilariously bad summaries, at least for the people in the meeting.
Right. If you were there, the AI summary almost never captures the important nuances or the key action items you actually care about.
Exactly. Maybe they're useful for someone who missed the meeting entirely, possibly. But for the actual participants, they don't replace good human note-taking focused on decisions and what happens next.
Plus, you've got the whole security and privacy thing if the AI is just processing potentially sensitive conversations.
That's a huge concern.
Yeah.
And then there's a really simple use case.
Yeah.
Getting AI to write an email for you. Kuman's article dives into this, and it's a major thread on Hacker News, too. So many people just say it doesn't actually save time.
It really doesn't seem to for simple stuff.
Right, you ask it to write a basic email, it spits out something boilerplate, super generic. Then you spend more time editing it, trying to inject your own voice and the specific details than if you just, written it yourself from scratch.
Someone in the comments said it felt like managing an underperforming employee.
That's the one. You ask for something simple, and they hand you back something you have to spend half an hour fixing. It's that feeling.
Okay, so we're definitely seeing this pattern, these bolted-on, underwhelming features, but why? Why are so many companies building these things?
The sources point to a few likely reasons. A big driver, Kumman talks about this, and it's all over the Hacker News thread, seems to be internal incentives. Companies are under huge pressure, from the hype cycle, stock price expectations, the need to show some kind of AI usage metrics.
So movement.
Exactly. Ship something with AI now.
Feature X, now.
Yeah.
AI enabled. Ship it.
Precisely. And that just pushes rushed integration over really thoughtful product design. It prioritizes ticking a box or chasing the trend over genuinely making things better for the user or enabling something new.
Feels very much like that add blockchain to everything phase we saw a few years back.
It,
Someone mentioned that in the comments, too.
it does hype-driving integration without clear, valuable use cases.
And, I mean, let's be fair, it's also just a genuinely new and kind of weird technology, isn't it?
Totally. Noah Breyer, in one of the sources we looked at, talks about how counterintuitive AI can be.
How so?
Well, it's often bad at things computers are traditionally really good at, like perfectly repeatable calculations. But then it's surprisingly good at things we thought were impossible for computers, like creative tasks or understanding messy, unstructured text.
Right. It doesn't quite fit our old mental models of software.
It doesn't pass the duck test in the traditional software sense, as Breyer puts it. It looks like software. It sometimes acts like software, but it behaves probabilistically, not deterministically. You can't always predict exactly what it'll do.
So figuring out how to actually harness that productively, that's a real challenge.
So maybe this current exploring phase where we're trying to bolt it onto existing things is sort of an understandable part of the journey.
Like the early days of bicycles, maybe? Before they settled on the standard safety bicycle design, you had all those weird high-wheelers and other contraptions first.
Yeah, it's part of feeling out the edges, figuring out what this thing's actually good for.
Okay, let's take that Gmail example Kumman uses and really dig in because it perfectly illustrates the problem, but then it leads to this fascinating debate about what the solution might be.
All right.
So, Kumman describes asking Gmail's Gemini feature to draft a really simple email. Let my boss Gary know that my daughter woke up with the flu and I can't come in today. Super basic.
Right. And as he shows, the output it gives is, well, a perfectly reasonable draft.
Yeah.
It's grammatically correct, is the right things, but it's totally generic.
Doesn't sound like him at all.
No. And it might even be longer than the simple instruction he gave it in the first place.
Which perfectly captures that managing an underperforming employee feeling again. Simple instruction, functional but useless output that needs work.
Exactly. Now, Kumman's proposed solution, which he actually demonstrates with a cool interactive example on his website, is really interesting. He suggests users should be able to define their own system prompt for the AI.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
Essentially, you teach the AI your personal tone, maybe your relationship with specific people, like Gary the boss, any rules or preferences you have, but you do it once.
Like setting up a persistent persona or a configuration for your AI assistant.
Right. And in his demo, once he defines this hypothetical Pete system prompt, which includes instructions like be brief, sound like Pete, know about Gary, the AI generates a draft that's just Gary, my daughter has the flu. I can't come in today.
Simple, direct.
And Kumman's reaction is basically, perfect. That was so easy.
Right.
And you immediately see the appeal, right? Especially if you're a builder. If you could configure the AI this way just once, you get useful, personalized output consistently.
But, and here's where the debate kicks in. Brendan Mulligan offers a really strong critique of this idea.
Yeah, he jumps in.
He agrees completely with the problem the generic output is bad, but Mulligan argues that asking users to edit system prompts is basically asking them to be engineers.
Too technical.
Yeah. He says it requires understanding technical concepts, non-obvious parameters, and it puts way too much burden on the average user just to get good output.
So his point is, AI products should be making things easier for users, not harder or demanding technical know-how.
Exactly. Asking users to manage a complex system prompt feels like asking them to manage the complexity of the AI itself, which he thinks is going in the wrong direction.
So what's his alternative?
Mulligan counterproposes that the product design should first automatically leverage context things the AI can already infer about you, your writing style, who you're writing to, stuff like that.
Okay, use what's already there.
Use what's there first. Then, offer really simple, high-level user controls like, a slider for a formality or buttons for make this shorter or make this more casual, not exposing the underlying complex prompt configuration.
Got it. Simple controls on top of automatic context.
Yeah. And this whole debate around AI for email writing, it reflects a broader point that came up a lot in the Hacker News discussion. Does this stuff actually save time for simple tasks?
Right. And is there a risk that people might lose basic writing skills if they just rely on AI all the time?
A lot of commenters were saying they'd much rather just send concise bullet points than try to wrangle AI-generated slop.
There's also that undeniable trust issue, isn't there? Email can be legally binding. It can contain sensitive info.
Definitely.
Letting a probabilistic system, a system whose output isn't guaranteed to be perfect or even accurate every single time, unlike normal deterministic software.
Which follows strict rules.
Exactly. Letting that automatically generate messages on your behalf, that raises some real red flags for people. It feels like adding a layer of risk that might just not be worth the supposed inconvenience.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so if just bolting on features like email drafting or summaries, which often feel like managing someone or just produce absurd slop if that isn't the answer, how should builders and innovators be thinking about integrating AI more fundamentally?
Well, the sources really push us to shift our focus. It seems like it's less about automating individual tasks and much more about reimagining entire workflows, decision-making processes, and ultimately the outcomes you're trying to achieve.
Okay, rethinking the whole flow.
Yeah, and this is where that XM Pro source introduces a really helpful distinction. They talk about the difference between LLM-enhanced automation and something they call multi-agent generative systems, or MEGS-S.
Okay, LLM enhanced automation versus MEG-S. What's the core difference there?
So LLM-enhanced automation is basically applying AI to make existing predefined processes a bit more flexible. It can handle variations in input better, maybe extract info, summarize things,
Right.
but it's still fundamentally following a mostly preset path,
So it's like automating steps within an existing workflow?
pretty much.
Yeah.
But MAD-GS, they argue, are fundamentally different. They're designed to actually transform how operational decisions get made and executed.
How so?
Instead of just following a script, they observe conditions, analyze information, reflect using their knowledge base, develop adaptive plans in real time, and they can work collaboratively to optimize towards specific objectives. They're much more dynamic and goal-oriented.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just a step in the workflow. It's like the system itself is making the workflow decisions on the fly.
Precisely. The example XM Pro gives is really powerful. Imagine coordinating decisions across maintenance, production, and inventory all at the same time.
Okay.
Imagine could potentially balance the need for equipment uptime against hitting production targets and minimizing inventory costs, all within a single adaptive framework.
That kind of integrated decision-making, balancing all those conflicting factors across different systems, that was incredibly hard, maybe impossible, with traditional separate automation tools.
Exactly. It required a totally different mindset than the AI Horseless Carriage. And that XM Pro source actually proposes a framework for builders to help break free from that old thinking.
Oh, interesting. What's the framework?
Okay, 4 key shifts. First,
Yep.
rethink your objectives, not just your processes. Ask, what outcomes are we really trying to achieve for the user or the business? Instead of just asking, how can we add AI to this existing workflow?
Focus on the why, not just the how. Okay.
Second, focus on decision models, not just task automation. Identify the key decisions that drive those outcomes and then reimagine how intelligent systems could make or assist those critical decisions.
Makes sense. What's third?
Third, embrace emergence over deterministic design. Recognize that the most powerful AI capabilities might actually emerge from the interaction of AI agents and data in complex ways you can't rigidly pre-program. It's different from traditional deterministic software where every output is predictable based on the input.
Okay, allow for unexpected positive outcomes. And fourth.
Fourth, measure outcomes, not just activities. Shift your success metrics away from things like how efficiently a process runs or how many times a feature gets clicked, and focus instead on how effectively the desired outcomes are actually being achieved.
That feels really fundamental, and it ties right into that idea from Hacker News that maybe AI-native companies will have a huge advantage.
How so?
Not because they necessarily have flashier AI features, but because they built their core processes with AI in mind from day one. They never even implemented those old bad processes like, manually rekeying data between different departments because they designed for an AI-integrated world from the start.
They skipped the bolted-on phase entirely.
Right. Noah Breyer also offers another useful way for builders to think about this. His even over strategic probes. 2 really stood out to me.
Which ones?
Extract write and react generate.
Okay, extract overwrite. What's the idea there?
It focuses on AI's incredible power to turn messy, unstructured data into clean, structured data. LLMs are amazing at this, and it enables totally new applications that weren't feasible before.
Right, like using AI to scrape vast amounts of web pages for pricing info to build dynamic comparison sites.
Exactly, or processing thousands of newsletter emails to extract product recommendations and build some kind of niche recommendation engine, things you just couldn't do manually at scale.
So AI isn't just automating an existing task, it's enabling a whole new capability.
Precisely. And the second one, React Generate.
That's about using AI not necessarily to create brand new content from scratch, but to analyze, critique, and help refine existing work.
Like Breyer's example of feeding his talk transcript into Claude to get feedback on how to improve it.
Exactly. The AI acts like a critical editor, pointing out maybe areas that need clearer examples or where the flow could be better.
So it targets bottlenecks in creative or analytical workflows that aren't about needing more ideas, but needing better iteration or evaluation or feedback loops.
Right. And this also shifts the human role, doesn't it? That Fusion Skills Source points out that AI makes everyone, in a way, a manager.
How do they mean manager?
You have to evaluate the AI's output, you need to break down complex tasks for it, and you engage in what they call reciprocal apprenticing.
Reciprocal apprenticing. I like that phrase. What does it imply?
It suggests that both the human and the AI are learning and improving together based on feedback and outcomes. It's not just the human training the AI or the AI replacing the human.
It's more like a collaborative loop.
Exactly. And it requires different human skills, judgment, evaluation, steering, problem decomposition, rather than just task execution.
So, okay, well, these horseless carriages are definitely everywhere today. It feels like these sources also give us glimpses of a future where AI enables things that are genuinely transformative, moving way beyond simple automation.
Yeah, what does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah.
What are some examples?
Well, the Hacker News discussion mentioned how AI is making complex classification problems way easier and cheaper.
Okay, like sorting data.
Yeah, sorting vast amounts of data into useful categories, identifying subtle patterns that can unlock huge new business insights and efficiencies, even if it's not a flashy feature you see on the front end.
That makes sense, sort of behind-the-scenes power.
Or take the example of using AI for massive scale transcription of audio archives. Someone mentioned transcribing decades of the Loveline radio show using tools like Whisper.
Wow, all that audio.
Yeah, and suddenly, this previously inaccessible cultural archive becomes fully searchable. It enables completely new kinds of research and access that just weren't feasible before.
That's a fantastic example of enabling something previously impossible.
Cool.
And in creative fields like generative video or visual arts, some users reported a very different experience compared to the generic text slop.
Oh, yeah.
They talked about successfully integrating AI outputs into their existing, sophisticated creative workflows, using AI to achieve a scale or a scope or a consistency that was just unimaginable before.
So it's not just the AI output itself, but how well it plugs into and enhances what they already do.
Exactly. One person described the feeling as being on a rocket ship because the AI outputs were immediately useful inputs for their professional process, not just a final, often mediocre product.
That's a huge difference. The key is how well the AI output fits and enhances an existing sophisticated workflow.
Looking even further ahead, there was this interesting idea about future AI agents being more transparent rather than trying to awkwardly impersonate humans.
How would that work?
Instead of AI drafting emails as you, maybe future routine communications could be handled by agents that are clearly marked, sent on behalf of your name, or maybe even read on behalf of a recipient name.
So separating the signal from the noise. Utility messages handled efficiently by agents.
Right. While preserving the value and intent of genuine human-to-human communication for the stuff that matters.
That kind of fundamental shift in how we interact with these systems, it does lead to that bigger idea. Maybe AI really requires an entirely new computing paradigm.
A different operating system, maybe? Or a totally new metaphor beyond the desktop and the file system we've used for decades.
Yeah, something designed from the ground up for these probabilistic, collaborative agents we're starting to build.
It brings us back to those analogies. Noah Breyer referenced Steve Jobs calling the personal computer the bicycle of the mind.
Right, a tool that lets us extend our own inherent abilities, our intellect, our creativity.
Of spectacular magnitudes, as Jobs put it.
And the potential is absolutely there for AI to be that next level of amplification, maybe even more profound than the PC or the internet were.
But only if we move past just bolting it onto our existing ways of doing things, our existing interfaces.
Yeah. It feels like the core message weaving through all these sources is that the true power of AI, the really exciting part, comes from enabling what was previously impossible.
Or from fundamentally changing how key decisions are made and how outcomes are achieved.
Rather than just automating or adding slightly clunky features to what we already do
Yeah.
in ways that often feel like an afterthought, like bolting that engine onto the buggy.
These AI horseless carriages we see so much of today, they seem largely a consequence of applying this genuinely revolutionary technology, using old processes, and operating with a mindset from the pre-AI era.
But for you listening, the founders, the entrepreneurs, the builders, the innovators, there's a massive opportunity right here, right now.
Definitely.
It's about looking beyond those incremental, often disappointing, bolted-on features. It's about focusing on fundamentally reimagining your workflows, your critical decision-making processes, and the ultimate outcomes you want to achieve for your users or your business.
Yeah, building truly exceptional, transformative AI products probably isn't about adding more AI slop features. It's much more about deep integration, rethinking entire systems from the ground up, and enabling entirely new capabilities or experiences that simply weren't possible before AI.
So we'll leave you with this thought to mull over, drawing from everything we've discussed from the sources. Take a hard look at the products you use every day, and look at the products you're building, or maybe dreaming of building.
Ask yourself, are they just bolting an engine onto a buggy? Are they just adding a generic AI summary here or an unhelpful autocomplete there?
Or are they truly reimagining the journey? Are they using AI to allow you or your users to do something that was genuinely impossible before? What specific workflow, what critical decision in your domain could you rethink entirely with AI? How can you move beyond the carriage and build something truly new and transformative?